Okay, so I'm really delighted to speak to Hector Fuentes. He is a member of our Summer Fellows class here at the Center on Democracy, Development, and the Rule of Law at Stanford University. It's a gathering of a couple dozen democracy promoters. Hector, maybe you can tell me about your role in Venezuela, because you've been very much involved in the election that happened last Sunday in supporting Maria Corina Machado, and but a little bit about your background just to start.
So I'm a lawyer in Venezuela. I'm a human rights activist. I've been for many years. I founded an NGO called Estado Lab, which focuses on analyzing state fragility and rebuilding democratic governance. And we've been following, of course, the latest events in Venezuela very closely. We have some electoral experts in the NGO, and we've been able to support some efforts to understand what's going on in the electoral sphere. So I don't know if I should jump directly to.
Well, okay, let me set this up a little bit. The election was held on Sunday.
Yeah.
The regime very quickly said that Maduro had won the election.
Yeah, that's right.
And you and other people in the opposition have been arguing that they didn't actually win the election. And in fact, the margin was very, very large. So what do you actually think? I think they said it was like 51%. Maduro had won 51%, and his opponent had gotten, a few points less than that. What do you believe was the actual margin there, and why do you believe it was so much larger than what the regime reported?
Right. Well, the first thing is that we had access to many exit polls that were happening during the day by prestigious and independent institutions. One of them was Edison Research, which they did a very rigorous exit poll in the country. And it was consistent not only with the data we got before the election of the vote intention in the population, but also with other exit polls that were happening at the same time. Gallup is another important one. And they all suggested that the difference between Maduro and Edmundo was 30%, right? The electoral system, the way it works, is that after you close the election is automatic, right? So you use a machine to vote. So the machine prints a little paper for the person, a paper trail, let's say, with the option they voted for, and then after that you deposit it in a box. When the day is over, what is supposed to happen is that the technician closes the machine, prints several records of what the results, paper records of what the results were. He gives one to the members of the polling station, and also to the witnesses of the party that have been accredited to be present in the room, right? After that, what they have to do is to connect the machine to the internet, basically, and the machine sends all the data to a totalization room in the headquarters of the National Electoral Council, where all the results are totalized, right? Are compiled and analyzed, of course. What the commando, what Maria Corina's campaign claimed after 6:30 is that some of the CNA, the National Electoral Council agents, were refusing to connect the machine and to print the record for the witnesses and for other people that were present, right? And they were also not opening some of the boxes. According to the procedure, you have to audit 50% or more than 50% of the boxes in every polling center, and they didn't follow this procedure either. So this was an anomaly that started to be seen, that was widespread. So our hypothesis is that after 6, they got a statistical picture of what was going to happen if they allowed all of the machines to be connected and the data to be sent. So at 7:30, they gave the order of stop the automatic transmission of data to Caracas. So in that case, what the rule says is that you have to manually introduce the data into a system, a contingency system that happened. But then this happened in 60% of polling stations, which is a big anomaly, right? when we saw the results being announced, they were not consistent with the polling centers and not with the 40% of the records that were printed. Those 40% of records clearly showed in all of the cases that Edmundo had close to 68% of the votes and Maduro close to 31% of the votes.
That's a huge
But
gap.
then this was in July 28th. What we've seen is that we are getting more and more printed records of machines. So they've actually reached, as we speak, 80% of those records. And the trend is still 67% for Edmundo González, the opposition candidate, and only 30% for Maduro, and less than 1% for the rest of the candidates, right? So this is the official record that the National Electoral Council machines print. I think the Maduro's regime wasn't counting that so many people were not going to obey the order. I do have to say that electoral witnesses, observers in every polling station made a huge difference. Their perseverance there, and also the presence of other grassroots vote defense structures outside the polling center created the pressure so that the army and the CNE authorities actually provided the records.
Yeah.
So with this huge collection of records, the evidence is there. It's absolutely impossible that the numbers that they announced on the 9th of July the 28th are real. So we are in front of a massive fraud. The question is, what are we all going to do about it? I argue that reestablishing democratic governance in Venezuela is not only critical for political rights, but also for socioeconomic rights. We've seen in the last years a huge amount of the population leaving the country because the living conditions were also almost impossible to bear.
Yeah. So the population of Venezuela is what, about 30?
It was about 30 million.
Yeah, and 8 million, 7 million?
The estimates is that in a range of 7 to 8 million people left in the last 10 years.
Unbelievable.
But then the astonishing thing is that when you asked in the surveys we've done in the previous year, it clearly shows that people had the intention of leaving the country if Maduro wins is from 18 to 25% of the population say, yes, we will think of moving if Maduro wins. And I think it is the society in general lost the faith that Maduro's could reestablish in any sense functional economic governance that could allow people to have access to opportunities, to stable jobs, that created a climate for investment, for secure investment. So I think that if nothing happens and if they succeed in this attempt to stay in power, what we're going to see is a massive wave of migration again happening in very precarious conditions. So we're probably going to see caravanas going through Central America, just searching for a better life, and that's going to create a crisis, not only in those countries in which those countries that they transit, but also the final destination that it tends to be the U.S.
And have protests started already in Venezuela?
Yes, massive demonstrations are happening. People are convinced that this is an existential crisis for them. It's not just about fighting for political rights. Again, it's fighting for basic human living conditions, having enough money to afford that healthy diet, paying for health services, having a public health service that works. So it's all of those things together. And I think that people remain hopeful that change can happen. I have to say that I see much more tolerance in the population today, Francis, to thinking of ideas of how to offer warranties for people in the elite of the government to reduce the costs of exit, right? So offering warranties, amnesty, and let's say a golden bridge so they can safely live with their families and live wherever they choose. I think that offer is there. I see a lot of tolerance in the population for that to happen. And I guess that the last claim is for solidarity of the armed forces, right? Are you going to repress people that are rightfully defending their votes? that are just aspiring a better future, a more inclusive future for everyone? Are you really going to repress them? We're seeing huge death tolls already and massive arrests, not only of political leaders, but also of people that have spontaneously taken the streets to confirm the will that they already expressed in the polling stations.
Yeah. Well, I think it's early in the crisis, so let's hope that the violence does not extend further. And let's hope that, there are cracks in the regime and that, you actually do get some political change, because, as you said, this is bad obviously for Venezuela, it's bad for the region, it's bad for the United States that this goes on.
It is bad for everyone. And I hope the same, that violence is going to be kept to its minimum, and let's hope that we all find a way to see a future that includes everyone, and that creates a sense of national unity that help us rebuild our institutions without violence and without the fear of also, I guess, of revenge. That is, I think, a word that is there. So we have to reduce the risks of those things happening, and just keep advancing on the goals of having, again, a more inclusive form of governance in Venezuela.
Well, Hector Fuentes, thank you very much. We'll keep
Francis.
talking about this. It's a fast-moving situation, but thank you for all the work you've done supporting a more democratic future for Venezuela.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for your interest and for offering this platform to say something about what's going on in Venezuela.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.